welcome to a moment of significance, your Zigger Legacy podcast. This is a podcast where we uncover the stories, the struggles, the strategies of extraordinary leaders in business who understand that true success is not just about what you achieve, it's about the significance you create and the legacy you leave behind. I'm your host, Stijn Rousseau, and I believe that when success meets significance, we don't just build business, we build lives of lasting impact. We're really privileged today to have Lauren Clark on call with us, and I'm going to hand over shortly to my colleague, my business partner, Clint Myberg, that's going to have a super chat to Lauren Clark. Without any further ado, guys, welcome to Moment of Significance, very first episode. Super excited to have Lauren here, and I'm going to hand over to Clint.
Oh, thank you, Stijn. Thank you so much. And what a lovely welcome to you, Lauren. I must say, just connecting with you, during our chemistry call, I just thought to myself, firstly, what a ray of sunshine. So thank you kindly. And wow, how perfect are you for our first lesson? How are you feeling today? And are you ready to chat with us about leadership?
Yeah, I'm very excited. As you said, we've had some great preparation calls up until now. And this is a theme that's very close to my heart. So thank you for inviting me today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely wonderful. And thank you so much for your time. We realize how important it is. So Lauren, you head up people at Mint, and that's quite a big seat. And let's be honest, Mint is running at an operational level of Microsoft business applications in a circle partner. So that puts you guys in the top 1% globally. How amazing. So well done for that. And, working with people is kind of where we get our energy from. So we just absolutely love speaking with people like yourselves. And Lauren, with you having more than 2 decades already in HR and, dealing with people per se, you've been championing women in technology and investing in practical pathways for young women to thrive in tech. Yeah. Where do you see I've seen your voice on meeting people where they are. And this is a leadership skill that really shines through in your work. Such a joy having a chat with people that have the same perception and sort of outlook on people as us. So let's get into it. Let's have a look at your journey. And I think the best place to start, really, Lauren, is in the beginning, isn't it? So who doesn't love a story, and especially one that has a little turning point or a twist in the plot? Tell us about a moment that early on in your life that shaped who you've become today into September of 25. Tell us a little bit about your past, Lauren.
Thank you. Listen, I'm the eldest daughter. I'm a Leo. I'm a dragon baby. I was a perfectionist type A. So there was no chance that I wasn't going to be a driven person. But if anyone knows the Enneagram, I'm a solid 2, compassionate helper. I've always been a people person right from a young girl. I've loved being part of my community, part of teams, working with people around me. And I think I grew into an upliftment role. Circumstantially, there were situations where I was in a position and I started with adult literacy classes in the Central Drakensberg, where I spent my teenage years. And I started an adult literacy program. And I think that to me was when I learned about myself, that the thing that I love is impacting people positively in a way that they can then shape their life. And it's not creating a dependency relationship. It's creating an opportunity where people realize or learn that they can do it. They can do the hard thing and they can do it. And so that adult literacy program became the foundation for my entry into HR as a practitioner. Ironically, I actually only got my first HR qualification. I did a diploma in 2018 or 2017 thereabouts. And then I did my honors, BCom honors in HR management last year. Prior to that, all of my HR experience has been hands-on. It's for me, it's a vocation, and it definitely comes from a core value of mine serving people, serving the people around me. And I think there's a lot of components to service. It's not necessarily the foot washing image that, you know, some people convey when they talk about servant leadership. In my opinion, and from where I come from, I've been exposed to travel. I've lived in different countries. I've learned about different cultures. I can speak different languages, not very well, but just a little bit, enough to understand. And it's really influenced how I view HR, the role of HR in a business, as an enablement channel and an empowerment tool, but also my leadership journey. So it did start working with people, started young, started early. But I've been very fortunate to be exposed to people and mentors along the way who've shaped this journey. One of them was a hotelier that I worked with when I was starting out working in hotels, setting up NQF and HR practices in hotels and that. And just his guidance and wisdom. This is when I first came across the concept of leveraging your strengths rather than trying to fix your weaknesses. So as I alluded to in the beginning, you know, I'm a oldest child, a Leo, you know, and there's a lot of negative qualities that are associated with, you know, those descriptions of me, you know, like, oh, hot-headed, strong-willed, bossy. And if you listen to the negativity, it becomes your orienting point, you know. And I was fortunate enough to have my bossiness leveraged as very good organizational skills. And leadership, you know, instead of being aggressive, it was assertive. She's assertive. And I think that was really impactful in my early 20s to reframe my weaknesses and rather prioritize my strengths. What am I really good at? And then let's leverage that. I'm always going to be an impatient person. I'm always you know, it's just who I am. And asking me to walk slow or wait in a queue, it's just never going to be me. But let's leverage that. And that's how I viewed it. And my journey throughout the last 25 years in HR and the last 15 or so years in leadership roles has really been about leveraging strengths. And as you said, I have written an article on meeting people where they are. And the follow-up to that is allowing people to be where they are. You know, you can't impose where you think they should be. And I recently read a brilliant quote about, you know, when we recognize potential in other people, it's actually just a mirror on what we would do in that situation, what we think we would do in their situation. And when we view leadership in this manner and stop projecting our, you know, our own issues onto people, it becomes a really amazing symbiotic relationship, because every day becomes a school day. You learn every day. You learn about yourself. But more importantly, you equip people to grow, to learn more about themselves and to go on this path. And I think that's a really powerful culmination of my journey for the last 2.5 decades. Is to get to this point. I've just turned 49, so I'm kind of looking down, you know, I'm not sure people my age, anyone that's turned 50 recently, it becomes a very reflective time of life. You kind of like 50 is an age, yeah, you kind of think, can you stop and think and go, wait a minute, you know, I'm into the home straight of turning 50. I've set myself a little bit of a intentional challenge for the next 52 weeks. Well, it started in August, my birthday, of each week reflecting on one thing I've done that week, either new or different, that just pushed me a little bit, and to be conscious of it. And yeah, it just, I think for me, that is the role that I can play in the world and in Mint and in my community. And I think especially for women, it's great to be able to have this voice and to use it. In South Africa, the community we live in, the society we live in. And that's why I said I love being included in initiatives like this, because I think amplifying these things and raising the profile on the different ways that leaders can show up, I think it's just really, really important.
That's fantastic, Lauren. Thank you. Your insights are, I knew you'd be grateful for our first episode. So thanks again. Listen, there's something that popped up, but I don't want to interrupt you. There must have been something at some point where there was a really big challenge that you faced. What was that big challenge that you faced during your early years? And on the back of that, was there a moment where you actually thought of throwing in the towel? And what kept you getting back up onto your feet into fighting position? So there must have been a challenge somewhere along the lines in those early days. What got you up?
I started my own consulting business with a friend around about 2001. And my mum, I was raised by a single mum. My dad lived abroad. My mum started her own estate agency. So for me to start my own business felt very normal. I came from a home where my mum had done that. So when this person said to me, let's start a training business, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And off we went. And I think that naivety served us both very well, because we didn't have any like, oh, well, we can't do this. I never at one point thought, oh, I can't do this. But hindsight is 2020, and I realized the one thing that we weren't doing very well was managing our finances, and our, shoemaker's shoe is always broken. Our compliance and our legislative requirements were very poor. But fortunately, her mum's best friend, after 6 months, kind of heard what we were doing, and she was like, do you guys know how to run a business, actually? Like, what are you doing with the money coming in? How are you playing SARS? So I think for me, having a business in my 20s, when you have an inordinate amount of energy, I think back now to what my life was like in my 20s, and I get exhausted thinking about that time, because I was running a business, I was playing hockey, I was still, partying like you do in your 20s. My mum wasn't well. Everything was going on, and still you show up every day and you do it because that's what you can do when you're in your 20s. But then my business partner's life changed. She got married, and then she let me know that she wanted to buy out of the business because they wanted to start a family and she wanted to change things. And that was my first real big lesson, is that things change. And what is plan B, plan C, plan D? Because I don't think up until that point that my agility competence had ever really been tested truly. Obviously, you kind of change pathways, and you change. I failed my first year of university because, like many undiagnosed ADHD people, I had come from 5 years in boarding school where at 4 p.m. was homework, at 5:45 was dinner, at 6:30 was homework session 2. My life had been very structured, and then I was let loose at Rhodes with no guardrails, and very surprised to learn just before exams that I hadn't done the work because I hadn't made a schedule. And it was a very tough lesson, but that was more of a life lesson. This particular business situation was a true test of agility, because I could have closed everything with her leaving and gone, well, I might as well close it as well. And instead I looked back and I said, I'm going to do the things in this business that I really love doing and I'm really good at. And the rest of the stuff will phase out. And I pivoted. And I think that was a big lesson, because financially it was really tough and stressful and worrisome. But it also taught me that, the world doesn't come to an end when something changes. And being able to assess the situation, step back and make an informed decision was really, really important for me. To learn who do you go to when you make important decisions, like who's your soundboard, who do you check in with, who's going to give you like a good objective session feedback, instead of just oh yeah, no, let's do it your
service. Yeah.
And so I think that was the big thing for me, because there was a moment when I did want to pack it all in, and I did want to follow the route that most of my peers had taken and just go to London and get a job, and just earn pounds. That was, in the back of my mind, that was what I was thinking. But I didn't. I pivoted, I changed, and for another 3 years, I ran the HR consulting side of things myself. And I I really, really loved it. And when I then made the decision to close the business because I wanted to then go and live abroad and do the change of environment thing, it was on my terms, and I made a very informed decision about closing my business. I'd reached a natural end, and I think that was a big life lesson for me.
That is so amazing. Lauren, you just made me think of something similar. When we think about pivoting, a modern aircraft is never ever on target, is it? We think about this. The airplane takes off from point A, and the destination is not static because the Earth is turning, right? An airplane adjusts its path 100 times every second. How about that for pivoting? So I'm so glad you took a step back, had a look at where you are, where you're going, and said, okay, do we give up or do we just slightly adjust the angle and keep going? So really, that's really cool. So well done to you. Let's move on to something. Hit me.
No, I was just going to say, I use the example. We've got a leadership development program here at Mint, and I use the example of, if a ship were to leave Cape Town for New York, set the trajectory and off you go heading to New York. And, your course is 1% off just outside Cape Town. If you don't course correct, you're going to, and carry on, that 1% will eventually end you up in probably Liverpool,
can you
as
imagine?
opposed to New York.
Yeah.
Because of just initially that one tiny percent. But very often we don't course correct at 1% because we're like, oh, it's just 1%. I can still see where I'm going. It's generally that way.
Boom.
But eventually you are completely off course. And I think that is being aware of course correction.
Absolutely.
Like making sure that I'm on track.
And taking action. I love it. No action, no change. Yes. Isn't that right? You've achieved so much success already in your initiatives. But what really stands out for me, Lauren, is your commitment to people. My favorite. How do you define the difference between success and significance in your role as head of people?
Such a good question, and I've been thinking about it. Today my team is presenting every Friday. We have an innovation factory session at 12 o'clock at Mint, and it's an online session, and different teams present the innovation that they're doing. And my team is today. And I was like, we're so in it that I couldn't actually think of what we do differently. I was like, guys, what are we actually doing that's innovative? And because we live it and we do it, it's hard to reflect. And that's why it's really important to step back. And so your question, about the success and significance just really gave me pause to reflect on what I've achieved and what is my kind of impact. And I think next week, I've been very fortunate to have been nominated for the Best Ally Award at the Women in Tech Awards coming up. And these are, it's really exciting. And
so cool.
For me, I'm not I don't care for the acknowledgement myself personally, because, I'm a progress person. Let's keep going. Let's keep doing. What this award actually for me acknowledges is 10 years ago, I sat with the leadership at Mint and I said, the two things for me that we have to intentionally drive is we need to get more women into this industry. And I'm going to do what it takes to do that. And we need to make sure that we've got diversity of age, race, gender, culture, language, thought, experience. And those were my two, really, these things I live and breathe. And when I look back at the success, I can absolutely go, we've been successful at those two things. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the success is a little bit of a tick box because I've got the percentages. When I joined Mint, there were less than 22% women, and now we're sitting on 40% women. So I can tick box and go, we've done this.
Yeah.
And from diversity, we introduced an apprentice program where we invited people with 10 years career experience outside of technology into a 6-month program to upskill as a CRM consultant. And we've got people from construction, steelworks, medical, bringing this incredible depth of thought and experience, and we've upskilled them. So I can say yes.
What a-
Success. Tick,
A
tick,
pivot
tick.
ninja. I
Okay.
have to call you that. No.
The significance factor for me is the big one. And that's what the award to me speaks to, is that this is significant because we can measure the impact. We can measure it, but the impact is beyond just what it's done for Mint. The impact is what it's done for women, what it's done for people of color, what it's done for people who are worried about being forced into retirement because they're nearing that age, and we don't have a retirement age, or they are too young and they're like, oh, nobody's looking at me because I'm too young to have a job or anything. And so that is what, for me, is the significance of these kind of initiatives. Clint, I can see you've dropped off, so I'm assuming that you've got a connectivity issue on your side. Oh, there we go. You're back.
Hey, Lauren, I thought I'd test you. Thought I'd test you to see if you were still in the call.
No,
for a moment. I think an aeroplane.
There we go. No, we all.
Apologies. No, I got to be quiet.
No, that's fine. So I just said, for me, it's the significance. The significance of those initiatives, and that the success of those initiatives is that it's changed people's lives for the better, and it's impacted more people. So if Mint is 200 employees, the significance of these initiatives is the circles around them. The 10 people around them, so that's 2,000 people that are impacted by this, and then the communities and that type of thing. So I think that is really where the awards, they're nice. It's a nice night out, we put on our glad rags and off we go. But the acknowledgement is, this is important to us. We're doing something about it, and it's intentional. This is not just like a tick box.
That is awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. More wisdom. How many challenges and lessons do we have on a daily basis? And, because we know that leaders are first people. I mean, they're human first, right? Think about a challenge. What is one challenge that you're facing right now that people wouldn't expect from somebody in your seat?
Sure, that's a very good one. I think, one of the things that I've been vocal about in many of my circles is I've always suffered from women's health issues related to hormones and periods and things like that. And it has made me more aware of the role and that speaking about this plays in my organization. Because many women and many men with women in their lives facing a similar situation face, so that is one thing. I've been very vocal about my ADD and the impact that my anxiety has on my life, and how I've overcome it and how hard I've worked to deal with it. I'm a single mom. I'm very fortunate to be in a very healthy co-parenting relationship, but single parents, I'm very vocal about being a single mom, talking about, a sick child and sports days and, schools changing schedules at the last minute because, they don't stop to think about our schedules. So I think, I've been very vocal about the challenges in my life. And for me, I never used to be this way. It's a shift that I've made in the last 2 years. I think a lot of people were surprised to learn these things about me because I'd always kept a lot of my personal stuff very, very close to heart, and game face on, always show up. And my team actually gave me very powerful feedback. One of my teammates we've worked together since my first admin. She's been here a year longer than me. And she moved across from the finance team into my team about 8 years ago. And one of the things, about a year after I came back from maternity leave, she gave me feedback about it. I always just was so together, like nothing stressed me, nothing. And she was stressing out because she was going through some tough personal times, but it just looked like I was always fine. And that was when I realized, like, okay, that's not true. But I also have to stop looking like I'm always fine, because people see before they hear and understand, so if I'm always fine, that's what they're going to see.
Yeah.
So I started sharing, and I started putting my hand up to go, like, I'm not fine. And I also then updated my calendar with, like, this is when I have my son, so that everybody knows we do 4 days on, 4 days off in our co-parenting agreement. The 4 days I have Leo, I work, from 7:30 to 4:00 because I've got to drop off and fetch and my shift and this, and it's in my calendar. But then it also, unwittingly gave permission for other people to, like, show in their calendar their kids' stuff. And then my health things, I spoke up about it, and I go, I'm not good today. I need to take a break. Like, and I think for me, that was actually the big shift, is how do you speak up about your issues? What is the boundary? Obviously, I can't share everything, and, but it allowed for other people to then speak up and to also say, I'm not okay. Like I do need time. I need a day, and so I do think, certainly in my role, I think HR does kind of lead the way on this. You set the tone for how people communicate their personal lives. I asked my CEO to populate his calendar. He's a single dad. And I said, please populate your calendar as well with what your dependencies are with the kids and school and that, because if people see this as your life, it means it's okay for it to be my life too,
Leading by example.
And I think those challenges, yes. Yeah. And just showing that you're also human. Like I also have, I got a phone call at 8:30 the other morning. My child was sick. Can I come and fetch him? I had to jump off my team meeting. Ladies, catch up with you later. Let me go fetch him. Shift things. It's okay, and I think that was one of the biggest things, was just being a little bit more vulnerable around, I'm not okay sometimes. Sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's mental, sometimes it's personal, family. And this is what I can share to be relatable.
Don't you find that amazing how sometimes, if we can just take it outside of the workplace, if a couple or a partnership could just say that whenever they meet each other, I'm currently at 20%. Yes. What you got for me? I've got 40%. Yeah. Good. We're on 60% together as a team. Let's keep going then.
No, so 100%, Clint.
That's fantastic. Lauren, just give me 2 seconds. I just need to step away from this thing quickly.
Sure.
Brilliant. Okay, so Lauren, you've had a couple of misfires, I hope, because if you hadn't, you'd be a perfectionist and you'd be perfect. And we haven't figured out who that is yet. And I'm still a perfectionist in recovery. So when you've misfired and misstepped, and they've taught you some lessons. Can you give me an example of somewhere where you took a wrong step and that really, really gave you a solid lesson to put in the toolkit?
Yes. So the very first thing is I'm a perfectionist in recovery. I think what expedited my shift from being a perfectionist type A was becoming a parent. Nothing humbles you faster.
Absolutely.
But it was very hard.
Yeah.
Because the thing about perfection is the inability to let go, and you can't delegate. And it's a lot of it is because you think no one will do it as well as you. But there's also the underlying issue of control.
Yeah.
If I control this, I'm safe. If I don't control this, I'm not safe. So that was a very big shift. And in 6 months after I came back from maternity leave in early 2018, we had to undergo some retrenchments.
Oh, shame.
And anybody in HR knows that this is probably one of the worst aspects of your job. There's nothing, regardless of the reason for letting anybody go, whether there was a disciplinary issue or not, it's never nice. There's nobody that enjoys this. But in retrenchments, which is, as you know, no fault dismissal, it's a devastating situation. And in the technology industry, our environment changes so rapidly that, you know, you can start a financial year with a great strategy in place and all the plans, everything's perfect, you know, and then something changes, technology changes, the world changes, something happens, and you have to have this situation. And for me, I think in a 25-year career, I can think of 3 particularly impactful misfires, and they have the same kind of theme. And the one is being nice, trying to be nice,
the nice guy,
being nice, and nice is not a strategy.
Negative. It's not. No.
It's just, it makes the situation worse, you know. And so that was my first misfire, is trying to be nice while retrenching, while imploding people's lives. And there I was, like, trying to be hug and nice, and whereas, as Brené Brown will teach you, we need to be kind.
100%.
Because kind is clear, kind is consistent, kind is respectful. Nice is like
lip service.
It's not, there isn't depth to it, there isn't substance, and it's not going to help somebody whose life has been impacted in this way. So that was the first thing, is just like, I need to be kind. The ripple effect of this is, in order to be kind and to be consistent, I also need to understand my role and how we prepare people so that if COVID happens, we are better prepared, better equipped for changes.
Brilliant.
So I think for me, it was very much around realizing that I cannot do everything and I cannot be everything. And you have to let go.
Delegation.
Delegation, dependency, putting your hand up and asking for help. The incident that triggered this was a previous IT manager made a comment. I was carrying boxes in the office and somebody new asked if they could help me, and Rian spoke up before anything and said, "Oh, don't bother asking Lauren, she never wants help."
You see.
And it hit me because I was like, wow,
I actually need help.
Is that how
I've seen this one?
Yeah,
right.
I do need help actually, but I don't know how, you know. So that was the second misfire, and the big lesson was, I need to know how to ask for help. I need to be able to say, it's not okay, this needs to be done, but I can't do it.
Let me ask you something.
And I think the third...
Carry on to the third. I want to come back to that. I'll circle back.
No. The third misfire is also just the circle of control and influence, you know, and this is why I joke and say I'm a recovering perfectionist and that, but I truly learned this when I had a child, and you realize that you can't even control your newborn baby that is lying in your arms 6 hours after being delivered. You know, actually the only person I can control is me. And when that shift happens, it really shifts a lot around me. And in the workplace, that shift happened beautifully for me, but concurrently with my C-suite. So my CEO and my CFO, we've worked together a very long time, and we all went on a little bit of a shift together around we can't do everything and everything can't be with us because we cannot control everything. And it started in my personal space, but my CEO graciously was like, okay, I'm going to look at what I can hand over. And we put what we thought was a 6-month plan. It turned into an 18-month plan because it's not as easy as you think. Good. But he was committed to doing it, and that set the tone for us. So for me, those are my 3 misfires: is you can't be nice. You can't not ask for help, and you can't not delegate, and you can't control everything. You can only control yourself. And I think for that, those kind of live with me in everything that I do.
That is so amazing, Lauren. You know, somebody once dropped that bomb on me, and they said to me, Clint, do you realize what as a people person, I just can't help myself but to help people. And by taking away the opportunity to let somebody help me, I'm not a people person anymore. So I really had to suck that up and just let people help me. So asking for help is actually giving somebody a gift. And so I'm really keen to hear how you came across that same realization. It took me forever to learn that lesson. So well done.
No, and very similar to you. There's two sides to it. Is I realized I began my very intentional personal growth journey in April 2020. Ironically, at that time we really thought this COVID thing was a few weeks, maybe a month or two at most, and then everything will be back to normal. And look, but one of the things that came out, I was doing virtual life coaching sessions at the time, which was a very new experience because you're kind of being vulnerable to a screen and you're figuring out the depth of this conversation. But one of the things that my coach at the time said is, do you know how to ask for help?
Yeah.
And I was like,
no
well, yes, you just say, like, can you help me? And she said, okay, well, then say that. And then I was like, backtrack. But, I don't really need it now. And she was like, okay, well, can you hear what's happening is you've immediately talked yourself out of. So, in your head, you're telling yourself a story of why I don't want to inconvenience them, or I can just do it better. As soon as I get time, I'll be able to do it. It'll be fine. And she, all she did was just put a spotlight on the fact that I don't know how to ask for help because I've already told myself the story of why I don't need the help.
Yeah.
And so she
come up with reasons why you don't need it.
Yeah.
You're creative.
She
You're
set me a task to ask for help without saying another thing. Like, please help me. So I started off with my brother, like, please help me with some DIY. And then stop. And of course, my brother was like, what are you going to say? Like, but, and I was like, no, can you just come and help me? And he was like, okay, but you want me to do it how? And I was like, I've conditioned him. He's responding exactly because he's spent 40 years of being told by his older sister, like, help me, but this way, like, and now I was literally like, I need these things to be drilled. Can you do it? And he was like, okay. And I was like, I'm going to step away. And that was, so, he was sitting there going, something weird's going on here. But that was what
I'm
she
not being told how. Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
What's wrong?
Exactly.
And
and with my teammates, I would delegate and then leave it. And she'd be like, Law, how do you want me to do it? And I'd be like, no, you do it. This is, and I need this time to focus on this. So you do it. And it took ages because she was like, but do you want me to do it like this? Do you want me to do it and I'd be like, no, you do it. Like I'm stepping back because I need to focus on this. So it was a skill to learn how do I ask for help and how do I delegate.
Practice.
It was a big mirror that had been held up for me, a very, very big mirror.
It's a really cool saying, Lauren, that no master was ever not the fool first, right?
Yeah.
So every time you ask for help now, you get better and better, don't you? But you got to be consistent. You got to keep on going it. The first time I was just thinking back now, please come help me with some DIY. And then just don't know, like, this is such a new world for me to ask for that. So every time you do it, it just gets easier and easier, doesn't it?
It does get easier, but also you shift your perspective from it's not a weakness to need help. It's not. No. It doesn't reflect poorly on you that you can't do this thing. And I think that's the shift. And certainly for a woman, I was very conscious of, if I don't know how to do everything, then they'll find an excuse, not, like, oh, just another woman who can't do this or something. So in the back of my head, I kind of had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder about this. Just to clarify, I have never experienced any kind of sexism in my personal life. So I had no fact to back up this thinking. This was just socialized thinking. In fact,
Yes.
I've been surrounded by men and females in leadership positions who have been allies and sponsors and mentors. So, but you've socialized like this. So I think women in particular just feel like even more like I've got to continuously prove myself and make myself 100% indispensable, because otherwise I'll be the first to go. And when you shift out of that
Crazy.
thinking, you actually become even more important because you're a good delegator, because you expose your team and include more people.
Amazing. You've written about meeting people where they are. I love that. Meeting people where they are. How do you apply that to yourself and your teams? So how do you actually put that into practice? Meeting people.
I love
are.
this concept.
All at different places. I know. Tell me about 100%.
It. Yeah. I mean, for me, people's stories, when I win the lotto one day, I will go back and study full time, and I would love to study anthropology full time. I'd love to for me, people are fascinating. I lived in Seoul, South Korea for 4.5 years. And I went for a year, stayed for 4.5. Absolutely loved it. I've been very fortunate to travel to, many countries, and people are fascinating. And the thing, as I say to anybody in HR, you'll never be bored. In the almost 13 years that I've been at Mint, it's never been the same. There's never been a day when I've sat back to go like, oh, yawn, this is just another day. Because people are the unpredictable factor. They're the variable. Your systems, your technology. I mean, sure, things are changing fast, AI, but it's predictable. Like, oh, we know where this is going.
Crazy. Yeah.
Humans
Imagine twins, triplets, quadruplets.
Exactly. It's just completely and that's what makes my job and my life so interesting, is I really do find people fascinating. And for me, it was understanding how complex I am. Everybody's this complex, everybody's got a story, everybody's got some version of a life that is just unbeknownst to us. And I remember having a conversation with a woman who had come up through a very different pathway in life to me. And we were sitting, and we were both guest speakers at a women in tech event. And I remember observing her and listening to her, and we were talking about a similar concept. But because we came from completely different backgrounds, our views on this similar concept, which is it was about progressing your career, like how do you actively progress a career?
Nice.
Our views were so different, but also so wholesome, because we just were speaking about an array of things that influence us and get us to where I am today. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that about people. Nobody is a bot. Nobody is a 2D version that has no story behind them. And if you can shift to just try and understand somebody, try and understand where they're coming from, try and understand what's driving them, what's important to them, it opens up this world of possibility for both of you. And within my teams, within Mint, we've driven this, but even within my family and my friends and that type of thing, is I want to know what's going on in your world. I want to understand where you're coming from, because it makes it more relatable to me, and when we understand this about people, we shift from judging to empathy, to really relating. And I always use the example pre-COVID, timekeeping, and of course, people who rely on public transport in this country, you are at the mercy of other people, and to be so rigid about, oh, you're late for work, without taking into context, you lose an opportunity to just connect with somebody and maybe do a small shift, maybe a shift of working hours, maybe a shift of travel allowance, just something, and all of a sudden you've really positively impacted somebody. Instead of
That's right.
expecting everyone to be where I am, like how boring would that be if everyone was like a 49-year-old single mother driving, a VW mom's taxi? It would just like the whole world would be like beige. And we've got to shift out of that. We've got to stop expecting people to be here.
Yeah.
And I think for me, if we can do that as a nation, as leaders, as parents, as teachers, like it would just really make a big shift.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. That's amazing. Lauren, let's try some rapid fire questions. These are the ones that there's no thinking. There's no thinking. It's going to come to your mind and you're just going to pop out an answer straight away, because we come into the end of the podcast. So we just want to get some rapid fire stuff just to get the cobwebs out. So let's go with something like, share with me a book that you would give every leader that you come across. Here's your book.
Yeah, for me, it's Atomic Habits. That power of 1% improvement. I just love that book. Personally, I'm a very big fiction reader, avid reader, love reading. Nonfiction for me always feels like homework. So I'm not a very big nonfiction reader. I've read a few Brené Brown books, a few of those, but Atomic Habits was one book that stopped me in my tracks. I read it from cover to cover. I've gifted it to people around me, to kids, my friends' kids who've left matric. I gift it to them because for me, that is one of the most impactful books I've ever read.
Absolutely. Thank you. And it's a book I've read, so I have to just agree. It's one of the top reads. What a top read. Especially for a scatterbrain like me, kind of structure helps me, because if you know anything about the DISC personality profiling, I'm an extremely high I. So I'm the crazy guy that wants to run around the room and be in the spotlight and have fun. But it kind of helps to have some daily structure, doesn't it? Otherwise we're just running around and not
100%.
Much. Yeah. Okay. Hit me with a daily principle that you live by. One daily principle that you live by.
So I start my day. I've got a little push on my phone. I wake up to a gratitude reminder. So I start my day with gratitude. What am I grateful for, and what am I focusing on today? Like what is my big win for today? And that's how I start my day. I also, when I open my bedroom curtains, I look out onto my pool, which is water and then green behind. And those two kind of still my mind to practice mindfulness.
Wow.
As an ADD person, the opposite of mindfulness is my world could be. And so it's very intentional to start my day. I look at the water and I look at the green, and I just, So I would say those two things are how I start my day every day.
That is so rad. I recently started that. I say recently, it's within the last year, and it helped me with my insomnia. Lauren, I used to go to sleep and I used to go to bed. Let's not say sleep. Use that word lightly, right? So I used to go to bed, and sleep wasn't a good thing for me. So my coach actually had me starting to write down the things I was grateful for the day, and also to plan that major, big, hit it out the park action for tomorrow, and 2 in the bank in case I get the first one done. And I found that going to sleep, having planned my next day and being grateful for the day that I just had, don't know what happened, but sleeping just started becoming a thing for me, minus the medication. So really fascinating that you do that as well when you wake up. It's just start the day without the anxiety, right? Such a big difference. How about your definition of legacy? Because we're talking about significance, right? Which is ultimately the nexus. It's the convergence of those 3 things: success, significance, and legacy. So what's your definition? What is your definition of legacy in one sentence?
Yeah, it's I love it. It's really a powerful thing. For me, I want to leave people feeling better and more enabled than they were. And I think, for me, it's just no matter who I come into contact with or who hears me speaking or anything, I just want them to feel empowered, enabled.
So powerful. Thank you, Lauren. Cast your mind back real quick. If you had to stop and see yourself when you were 20, what advice would you give yourself?
Stay fit. Stay fit.
Wear sunscreen.
Yeah, stay fit. That would definitely be the first thing. Take care of your health. I think, in the 90s, when I was in high school and university, we didn't speak about physical or mental health other than just very superficially. And I think it can tell with my generation. So definitely, I would say, look after your health, mentally and physically. But I think very importantly to my 20-year-old self, follow your heart. And sometimes that means going against the grain. I went to work on a kibbutz while all of my friends went to London to go and do the London thing. I started a new business when a lot of my friends were joining corporates and the big four and what have you. And I would just say to myself, always follow your heart. Your heart knows. Follow your heart.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Lauren, we're gonna come to an end. I just need to thank you. Really, you've shared your journey. You've been quite brave and authentic with us. Your wisdom's been popping all over the place. So thank you for that too. And I really love how you remind us why people first cultures are not soft. They're actually smart. So, being kind is one thing, but people first cultures are really, really the way to go for me. And if I just had to think of some of the takeaways we've had from the discussion today, the big thing that leans for me is resilience. So you really understand resilience. You understand the power of purpose, and you've got some amazing courage to build others. So I really want to thank you for that. Before we close, and before we say hello to Stain again, who's probably still in the background there, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to leave our listeners for today?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing is to be your authentic self. And it's not, it's not a trend thing. It's not this is such an Instagram, everyone's their authentic self. When you are your authentic self, it requires the least amount of effort. It's your natural state. So you're also not putting additional stress on yourself. But it just, I think, certainly in a technology-hungry world that we live in right now, human connection is the fabric that will keep us together. And when you are authentic, you generate connection. And for me, as a human resources practitioner, as a people-centric architect, connection is my vibe. That is the most important thing.
And that's why we had you on episode 1, Lauren. What a wonderful message. Thank you, Lauren. Really appreciate it. That was fantastic. Thank you for sharing.
No, my pleasure. This has been amazing, Clint. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you to Clint and Lauren for doing an outstanding job. And I think here's my takeaway, Lauren, for today's session. When we touch a live, we don't only touch that live, we touch 1,000 other lives. And I heard you refer to that. And then I simply love, be kind. Kind is clear. That was really, really impactful for me. And then, here's one of the things I'm most certainly going to remember going forward is every day is school day. There's an opportunity to learn something new. And this is what a moment of significance is about. It's about being real. It's about being raw, authentic, about talking about the things that need to be talked about. As the great Zig Ziglar said, you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. And I found that such a profound quote actually for this episode. This is a moment of significance where legacy, significance, and success meet each other. I'm your host, Stain Rousseau. If you found value in today's episode, share it with someone out there who needs a little bit of inspiration. And join us next week as we continue exploring what success, significance, and legacy and how they come together. how they changed the world. And until then, keep living a life with purpose and keep building your legacy. See you next time.